Uh, Welcome to Caribbean Thought. Welcome to Caribbean Thought. There is a lot that we have to contend with in Caribbean Thought class today. First, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Great, great, great. There's a lot that we need to contend with in this week's class. Just so you know that I did not finish with last week's class. Uh, I didn't finish with last week's class in terms of making it available. The last 50 minutes of the class is available, but which I published calling it Caribbean Extended. The class towards the last hour of the class, and the class was about over 3 hours long, but towards and you guys were free to leave whenever you want to, but we still continued because we recorded it and it's available. The discussions were deep. We talked about Turks and Caicos and what's going on in Turks and Caicos. Umberto raised a very important point. Um, and it is a point that I have raised in an article that is published in the Neoliberal journals and in the Jamaica Gleaner, talking about, and the article I am referencing, let me bring up, if I can find the article. I just was on it just now. Not this one. There's lots happening. There's so much happening. One of the things that I've done previously in this class is to have students comment on current issues, what's about in terms of what's going on in the world. And we've been doing that in this class. This class have been ripe with it, and I really am grateful for how vocal so many of you have been, which is what we are hoping for. Very good, but we want it to be we want you to critically analyze these issues and to draw your own conclusions, not from an experience that is bound up in a history that is written for many of us. So then you have to write your own history by doing your own research, by developing a critical eye. And of course, we talked about the Afrocentric paradigm deliberately and intentionally, so that you can begin to think in epistemological ways, in metaphysical ways, in axiological ways, in ways that pays homage to you as individuals, to your identity, to your history, because anthropologically, or before anthropology was developed, way back in the early 1900s and way to the late 1800s, when we had sociology, the sociology and the anthropology that we have was an anthropology that still believed that black people or African people were monkeys, or closely associated with monkeys and stupid and so on and so forth. And many of that still exists in many of the writings today, and that is what many people want to go back to. But last week was very important, a very, very powerful class, and I really want to say I want to hail up Idris, Chantal, Umberta, and many other persons participated in the class, but especially toward the last minute. I just want to hail you guys up. But I wrote an article entitled Reforming Birthright Citizenship, Protecting Against Misuse Without Breaking History. And in that article, I said immigration reform continues to be a polarizing issue, and the debate surrounding birthright citizenship is no exception. There are individuals who exploit the 14th Amendment, coming to the United States with the sole intention of giving birth so their children can claim U.S. citizenship. Let me stop there. Let me say it again. Immigration reform continues to be a polarizing issue, and the debate surrounding birthright citizenship is no exception. And there are individuals who exploit the 14th Amendment, coming to the U.S. with the sole intention of giving birth so their children can claim U.S. citizenship. That is not hearsay. Just so you know, it is a fact. Other people may not be able to prove it, but but we can. While this practice is not a conspiracy, it is a documented reality that has far reaching implications, including placing unnecessary strain on the foster care system when some of these parents leave, abandoning their US born children. Our Caribbean thought is deep enough. The connections between the global north and the global south and the Caribbean runs deep, and it still runs. You cannot do Caribbean thought without contending for what's happening in society today and what's happening right now. That is what puts you guys at an advantage at Jamaica Theological Seminary doing this course. Okay? I am telling you that they're not doing this, they're not talking like this at University of the West Indies or at other universities around the world. This is important because the next thing I'm about to do is going to be quite interesting because there is an article that was in on social media today that is in the Gleaner, the Jamaican Gleaner today, about the Harlem Godfather. And I hope you guys were reading the paper and saw that. And there were many comments. I participated in the commentary. There's so much happening I want you to present, but I want you also to think about part of this class contend with what's happening in society today, what's happening in the current, what's happening in society right now. And we can't be thermometers. We have to be thermostats. So, this is powerful. This is powerful. The call to reform, by the way, there's a gentleman who came to the US, no choice of his own, at 4 years old, from the Caribbean, from Jamaica. And today, under the MAGA project, under the Donald Trump presidency, and his drive to minimize and to mitigate or to develop draconian reform policy, or to reform the immigration policy so as to preserve and protect America's soul. America's soul is, in other words, America, where where the racial makeup of this country is changing. The majority will become part of the minority become part of the majority. That was predicted from 2009, 2010. And so the Project 2025 was geared towards that. So the call to reform birthright citizenship is, and stemming from what Umberto said from last week, it's very powerful, very powerful. The call to reform birthright citizenship is not about denying fundamental rights, but about addressing loopholes that undermine its original content. Critics often argue that any change to the policy would challenge the citizenship rights of enslaved individuals and their descendants, invoking the amendment's historical significance. However, this perspective, while emotionally resonant, is overly simplistic and fails to recognize the evolving context of constitutional law. The 14th Amendment of the US, ratified in 1868, was designated to secure the citizenship of formerly enslaved people and their children, ensuring they could not be denied rights due to their race or status. It was a groundbreaking provision for its time, crafted to address the injustices of slavery and the systemic exclusion of African Americans from the full benefits of citizenship. However, history is not static, and laws must adapt to the realities of the present. So we are no longer in the era of Reconstruction, just so you know. And while the amendment protections were vital at the time, the specific population it was meant to shield no longer face the same systemic threats. Many who benefit directly from the amendment have passed on, and their descendants are firmly established within the fabric of American society. And so today, the context has shifted, and birthright citizenship is being misused in ways the framers could not have anticipated. So this misuse undermines the very principle of fairness that the amendment was designed to uphold. Reforming birthright citizenship would not erase history or deny the accomplishments of those who fought for its enrichment or enactment. Rather, it would ensure that the law evolves to address modern challenges, protecting against exploitation while preserving the integrity of citizenship. Those who oppose reform often cling to a narrow and rigid interpretation of constitutional law. They fail to acknowledge that the Constitution is a living document designed to adapt to the needs of a changing society. Just as we must re-examine outdated gun laws in the face of mass shootings, we must also reconsider immigration policies to ensure they serve their intended purpose without enabling abuse. Now, reform does not mean rejection, it means refinement. It means recognizing that the intent behind a law must align with its application in contemporary society. Addressing the misuse of birthright citizenship is not an attack on the rights of African Americans or any other group or Caribbean people from Jamaica or wherever. It is necessary. It is a necessary step forward toward ensuring that citizenship remains a privilege and responsibility, not a loophole. Let us move beyond emotional appeals and engage in a nuanced, fact-based discussion about immigration reform, and the goal is not to diminish history, but to ensure that the laws we uphold serve the retaliations or the realities of the present while maintaining the principle of justice and fairness. Now, stemming from that, I have talked about the issue of the MAGA project of President Trump, the MAGA project, and the MAGA project, which is Make America Great Project. Make America Great Project, which means going back, preserving the demographic, the racial makeup of this country, of the US. Okay, the fact of the matter is the minority become part of the majority, the majority become part of the minority. That's a problem, that fears that people have. We've studied it, we've been part of studies, we've seen it, it was happening. The US presidency, in a sense, is a state of emergency. Not in the clearest of terms, but in a sense, it is a state of emergency, a cultural emergency, a demographical, racial state of emergency. And so, while they have not said it in those ways, but it is. And so, the ways that they are implementing policies unilaterally and snubbing and going around constitutional laws and ethics and policies and mores and laws and so on, and at the behest of no one, suggests this a move to preserve and to protect against what is and what the expectation is, the racial makeup. Now, last week we had a class, and of course, powerfully, Umberta talks about Turks and Caicos, and she made a very profound point, a point that is important, a point that is very important, that she should push it to the next level and write a paper about what's going on in Turks and Caicos as it relates to the immigration issue, stemming light to what's going on there. She said the Turks and Caicos are being outnumbered by the immigrants. The Turks, the people who are from Turks and Caicos, it seems as if they are no longer part of the majority, but they have become part of the minority, outnumbered by new cultural realities, new cultural identities that may come to overwhelm and overtake the cultural realities and identities of the people there. Now, that is what, and I know those are real fears. And she talked about the issue of integration and whether or not integration is actually a bad or a good thing. And for the Turks, it may not be as good because it has, for many, the immigration have allowed all these people to come into Turks and Caicos, which have exacerbated socio-political, cultural crime and violence and economic ills. Now, we are scientists. So when we come, so I said we can't be hypocrites then. See, for example, in Jamaica was just as oppositional to the Haitians coming there many years ago in the 90s. Okay. So, so therefore, the point that Umberto was alluding to was what is going on in the US. We cannot pretend, we can't be hypocritical or duplicitous, because there are real fears in the US, there are real fears in the Caribbean, there are real fears in Turks and Caicos where she is at, where she lives in, or where she works right now. So that's powerful. That's an interesting perspective, Umberto. So thank you for that. And then we talk about, of course, what's going on and what's going on in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago today, crime and violence we talk about it. The country was under a state of emergency. I believe it has passed now, but it was under a state of emergency. There's a lot of illegal guns coming into the country. A lot of illegal guns coming into the Caribbean, which has helped to destabilize the Caribbean. That is an issue for Marko Rubio to address. You know, before these post-industrial countries can come into the Caribbean to make demands and so on and so forth, they must also look at how policies have helped to create the problem. Say, for example, the post-industrial can cut off, can can assign a 25% tariff. Okay, they can say I'm 25% tariff because you have criminal gangs coming into the country, immigrants, illegal immigrants coming into the country, fentanyl and opioids coming into the country, so on and so forth. But at the same time, you have part of that illegal or criminal system in the global south is fueled by the gun system in America and how the accessible, how easy it is, and a part of their transnational and multinational, and how these make their way into the Caribbean and throughout the world. So the U.S. have certain laws about and certain feelings about gun, and the ways in which their system works in terms of their transnational and multinational, and the leeway that many companies and corporations have because corporations rule the day. How the leeway that they have, and the gun business, they are part of capitalism. They have powerful lobbyists who advocate for certain situations that are advantageous to them, which also involve penetrating into the Caribbean. Yes. What in terms of what has been the US and post-industrial countries are quick to have their CIAs and FBIs parading in the global south and to countries that they deem unstable. However, the Caribbean have real qualms with illegal guns coming into their country from the US, from the global south. That is a real problem as well. And Jamaica has a highly restrictive country in terms of the Caribbean in terms of their gun laws as against the US. But it looks like, and I have argued, it doesn't matter how restrictive, but this is if Jamaica was restrictive, coupled with the difficulty of bringing guns from the US to Jamaica, then probably it would have been different. But, this is quite interesting. But here we have it that the Commissioner of Police in Trinidad and Tobago is in bed. I use the word in bed. I like using the word in bed because that's the relationship when you have, when members of government, when political leaders and bureaucrats and technocrats and security forces, when they form alliances, yes, with illegal machinery, that's a problem. You call it in bed. That's an in bed. That's a relationship. The chief of police was also friends with the gunman that was bringing the guns into Trinidad and Tobago, and I understand he was arrested. I don't know what the latest story is. We don't have time to get into that. And of course, we also talk about Haiti and want to advocate for a Haitian-led solution. Now, in the last class, or 2 classes ago, I shared an article, and I said it was a quick point I was raising, very important point, and I said that, is this it right here? No, it's not. I find it for you. I'm rushing because I know you have to present, and I'm making some important points that must be said. There is Dear Mr. President, please reform NAFTA into NAFTA. I wrote that article. Dear Mr. President, please reform the North American Free Trade Agreement into the American Free Trade Agreement. And in the article, I said, Dear Mr. President, is it possible to reform or dismantle the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and create a new trading bloc? I call it the American Free Trade Agreement, AFTA. Now, this would expand economic partnership throughout the region, the Americas, and it will help to minimize China's influence in America via their satellite countries, which include the US and which include the Caribbean, and would build a stronger America including the Caribbean, Latin America, South America, and North America all together. Now, there are some people that have a problem with that in the Caribbean, okay, understandably so, but I was being strategic when I say that. You know, the Jamaica and the Caribbean all together, they are vulnerable. First of all, with what's going on in the Caribbean, almost all these countries are vulnerable right now. As much as they are talking about, they are showing strength. They're showing strength. I've often said that the CARICOM is not, there is no CARICOM. We are not as united. In order for the Caribbean to absorb some of the shocks and what's going on in the world and what may continue to happen in the world, and for them to prevent another 1970s from happening, which leading to where they are now, they have to be united in ways that they have never thought about. They have to, they have to be revolutionary. But no one wants to give up their control of. Everybody wants power, and the Caribbean countries cannot agree because there's all this pride and that we all have. Yes. Um. And I said to people, of course, yeah. I mean, yeah, we can go to Africa, and one of the things that people that we haven't thought of, we say we're doing business with China. What about if we're going to go to China? Why not do business with Africa? I mean, aggressively. Not. I'm not talking about surface level agreement. I'm talking about an agreement that is almost resemble that of the European Union. I don't think that the ACP countries need strength. The union, okay, and it's still controlled by post-industrial countries because many of these unions get aid from USAID and so on that controls their agreements and so on. But I think the conversation that Jamaica and the Caribbean need to have today is a regional partnership, including them, because NAFTA is a regional partnership in the Americas that does not include them. Just Mexico, Canada, and the US. Now, you bring the Caribbean into the agreement, it will make for a stronger Caribbean, it will make for a stronger America. And not only that, it will also help to mitigate the regional conflicts or any geopolitical issues that may happen. That is why I said that. I'm thinking strategically because as much as I would say yes, as much as we want to use expletives and sever our ties with the US or with the post-industrial or the former colonial masters, the way in which the world that we live in there is no way that is possible without being strategic. There are many different fronts that we can think about. Say, for example, we need to develop the capital intensive capability of the Caribbean. That is a problem. We need to develop the capital intensive capability of the Caribbean so that the Caribbean will move away from their position of being a dependent capitalist country. And that is what the Caribbean is. And to be honest, that's what it is. That's what the Caribbean is, dependent, and that's what it was. That's the idea. And when Caribbean countries seem to do well, then that's a problem for the post-industrial, for the country that dominate the region. And if you can listen to my interview. I mean, I was on a radio station yesterday and on last Saturday, and I talk about the issue of globalization and what is happening in the world today, and how big countries are repositioning and restructuring and reshaping and shifting themselves because they believe that society had become more competitive, their dominance, the status quo is being challenged, and there's always a backlash. That's what Karl Marx talks about. That's what Marxism is about. They talk about or a conflict theory and how class, and of course, what you see now is the revival of the conflict theory. In a sense, well, in a sense, it's not really, because what is that? It's not really much class, because whether racially or whether through class, most people are just, what they're doing is allowing the countervailing tactics of the dominant classes or the dominant countries to take hold and to have their way. We are being complicit in many different ways. Movements aren't organized anymore, they are reactive. But being reactive cannot upend one's reality that is historically entrenched and continued and maintained through systems and institutions and a knowledge base, even through, yeah, religions as well. But moving from this, I'm talking about everything that's going on in the world today. Let's move on to the next thing that's going on in the world today, which I want to talk about it quickly before we get to the next thing. It was on Facebook. Uh, it was on Facebook. I don't know if you guys were able to read the Gleaner. It was on Gleaner, but I went on the but I followed the Jamaica Gleaner and I read the story. Let me see if I can find it. I commented on the story today. Please let me find the story about the Godfather. Um, does anybody know? Oh, here it is. Oh, I had reposted it. Um, in fact, I could share my screen. I will share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Share screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, sir.
I didn't pick what I wanted to share. It just started to share anything it felt like sharing just now. What the hell? Ridiculous. Um, let's put this to the right. Put this to the right side. It's hiding. There we go. This was in um New York City, the Jamaica Gleaner, a New York City community leader who left Jamaica at the age of 4 and has been fighting deportation since his 2020 release from prison was detained Tuesday by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He had spent 30 years behind bars on a drug conviction. Youth mentor, 59-year-old Robert Panton, who is dubbed the grandfather of Harlem, spent more than 50 years in the U.S. However, much of the time was behind bars for a single criminal conviction when he was 24 years old. Now, there were many comments. People had a lot to say, but some people had some negative things today. I'm trying to see if I could bring up this post. Some people had some negative comments. Uh, if I could find this, some people had some negative comments, and I wanted to see it. Um, uh, if honestly, it's been seen here. Blah, 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 blah. Honestly, if he's been here since he was 4 years old and the U.S. raised him, U.S. needs to keep him. I'm just reading the comments. That's the U.S. All Jamaicans glorified in that's the oh, that's it. That is the U.S. All Jamaicans glorify that all Jamaicans glorify. That's the America Jamaicans crave. For when people is going to get, we have to take care of Jamaica because anywhere you go or born of Jamaican parents and violated law back to Jamaica, or you go, they send you back to Jamaica. We need to love and care for Jamaica, the land of birth. Now, anyways, people are saying that many comments, but I responded to the article by saying, um, if I could, I responded to the article by saying, I reposted it by saying this makes no sense. Jamaica, he came to the US at 4, no choice of his own, never went back to Jamaica, and now they want to deport him. He came here at 4, was criminalized by the system, the US system, and was locked up by the system, only to now release him and deport him to a country that is foreign to him. Ridiculous. That is foreign to him. Ridiculous. And that is trending. There are people talking about it today. I don't know how you guys feel. You can go to the Gleaner. talk about it. Some people, but I felt incensed about that because I believe that he should not be deported. He spent, he came here at 4, no choice of his own, no volition. If anything, it is the parents that should be held accountable. Um, but that's quite interesting. That's what's going on. That's what I want. And finally, the prime minister hosts Jamaica. Did you guys see that that Marko Rubio, you can come through. Did you guys see that? Let me just pause my screen for a second. Hold up. Let me pause. Yeah, it's clear. Julian, I'll have you respond in a second. Oh, it's 1 minute to 5, so I'm going to stop right here. But Marco Rubio was in Jamaica. I can't wait to hear what you feel about it, your opinions, because a lot was said. A lot was said. The prime minister looked uncomfortable beside him. You guys have to watch it, and I want to hear your comments about it. But did you see it? No, the prime minister did look a bit uncomfortable. That was just me saying it.
Yes,
I,
sir, I watched
we
it.
know, I know the prime minister. I've seen him. I've seen how him. When Kamala was there, we have. You guys want to push it now, or you want to talk about it a little bit? Hello. What did you guys feel, Julian? Julian, what is it you wanted to say, Julian? Go ahead.
My point was on the other issue you were discussing
Go
with the
ahead. Go ahead. Go
deportation,
ahead. Go ahead.
of persons who are basically socialized in American society and
Yes.
commit crimes in that society based on how they were raised in that society. And then I grew up with a young man in my community back in rural Jamaica that nobody knew him. His parents were from the community. And I think he left Jamaica when he was maybe 2 years old, somewhere there, and he went to prison and they deported him. And he didn't know anybody in the community. He's still there, but he has developed mental problems since. And because I think the shock of the culture that he's now been made to live in affected him greatly, and so it's nothing new. It has been happening a long time ago, and I really think it needs to stop. They were not trained in Jamaica. This young man that you're talking about, he was socialized in the American culture, and they are responsible for the path that he chose, so they shouldn't be just dumping them back on the little island.
I mean, that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, but that's part of the state of emergency. And the fact of the matter is, he is not a U.S. citizen. He is not.
He's
No.
not a citizen, sir, but he was socialized there, and
Yeah.
it's their culture. This whole Godfather business is not even. Well, we know we have the dons in the ghettos and certain communities, but it's a whole different thing. It's a whole other level.
But I don't think he's a bad guy. I mean, please, Rachel. People still call Rachel the harlot, after she was saved and all of that. I mean, he has been rehabilitated. He's been contributing to society. But they want to deport him. Um,
Well,
anyways, that's a different issue. Now, I want to talk about another issue. The Prime Minister of Jamaica was speaking with Marko Rubio, the Secretary of State. He also went to Barbados. He also went to Jamaica. But when they go to the Caribbean, they go to the capital. Sorry, guys, I apologize. You know what? I don't want you guys to throw stones on me. People from Trinidad and Turks and Caicos and so on and so forth. But I am being truthful, though. Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Jamaica has a lot of influence in the world. Where Jamaica does. Um, Jamaica's influence is vital, and one of the reasons why the Caribbean um, Federation failed was because one of the reasons because Jamaica pulled out of it or decided to go it alone, which has helped to affect Caribbean integration and Caribbean unity. You know, but what are your feelings about the speech? Did you guys see the press conference between the department, Marko Rubio and Mr. Andrew Holness, Mr. Marko Rubio and Mr. Andrew Holness?
I saw it, sir.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. They're trying hard to. I didn't like the way he said certain things. Certain things. I see that when he said certain things, I noticed what you were saying about how Andrew, how he looked,
Yeah.
especially when he said that they were very similar. You know, America and Jamaica and the way they run things are very similar. You know, to me, making it seems like they agree on
Yes.
like everything is trying to say like everything that America stands for and what they're doing that Jamaica also agrees with as well, or we have similar beliefs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. And even with the whole Cuban doctors thing, I think they don't really have a reason why they want no affiliation. Is because they just, they really dislike Cuba and they're
Wait,
trying to find
hold up.
every way.
What's going on? Hold on. What's going on with Cuba and the doctors?
The Cuban doctors, sir, they don't want them in certain countries practicing because they're saying that in Jamaica they were human trafficking the Cuban doctors, and I don't understand how that is human trafficking.
So
The
is
way
there
they
pressure from the
explain
US
it.
to have the doctors in Jamaica?
No, because they're say I think is I don't remember exactly. I don't know if it's Trump that said it, but I
No,
think
one
I
Yeah, go
moment,
don't
Janelle. Let
remember
me help you
exactly.
out a little bit.
Go on,
yes, go
So
honey, go
the
ahead. Go
on.
ahead.
So
Christina,
the
show me.
situation here is that the reason for the visit is that they're saying that when the government sign a contract with another country, they are sending the money go straight back to Cuba and not actually paying the Cubans who are working in the country. So they're saying that this is a form of human trafficking. However, when he came here, he came to realize that our Jamaican policies that they pay them directly. They do not send the money back to Cuba. So that is the issue that the USA is saying that they're having. That when some of these countries sign a contract to get a group of doctors, instead of paying the doctors who are in the country and on the island working, they send the money to Cuba, to the government. And the persons who are working are not getting their actual pay, and they're threatening their families back home if they don't get the money, or they're threatening to hurt these doctors' family members and so forth. But our Jamaican system do not do that like that. They pay them. They pay them in their hand. They don't send
Okay.
back the
How
money
are
to
you
Cuba.
so sure? How are you so sure of this?
Because that's what they discussed we had a press conference since week. And this is what was communicated by both Andrew Onis and both the US personnel. And he said he's proud of Jamaica because this is what we're doing. When he comes and check out our system, this is what we're doing. We're not trafficking these persons, we're paying them.
Very good. Now, there's also an issue where Jamaica and many countries in the Caribbean was recently placed. Their risk levels were increased. They were put on in terms of the travel advisory. And I think
Sir,
yeah,
before you move on to that point, what Christine just said, from long ago, we know that the way Cuba does things is that whatever individuals from Cuba do, the country has to benefit to some extent for it. Like, for instance, that guy that won the car and the millions in the long jump some years ago.
yeah,
And when he went back to Cuba, the car was sold to buy a bus to transport children to school. And he was willing to do it because some of them see the poverty that exists in their country and they're willing to use whatever they have to alleviate, the poverty. So some of these nurses, even though they are paid, nurses and doctors, they of themselves contribute a significant amount of their salary back to their country, to their government. And it's mandatory, but because of the sufferings that they're aware of, they're willing to cooperate with the government. It's a system in Cuba, like, for instance, when it comes time to cut the cane and the doctors have to leave office to go and farm, It's something that happens. It's a part of their laws in Cuba. So they are not being forced. It's not labor without pay. It's labor with a willingness to share the proceeds because the government educates them. It's kind of a bond with the country. They get the education. I mean, education is very expensive. They get it and they agree to help. So what America is trying to project, that's not what is happening, but it's not that what they earn does not benefit the country. It does. And
Yes.
even if it's even to some extent in the form of remittances that go back to their families there and what they give a certain percent to their country. Um, if we do you remember that incident with the young man that won the gold medal and the car and
Yeah,
he was
Julian, you're right. I'm familiar with what happens in Cuba, to be honest.
yes,
Very, very
yes.
familiar.
But
Um,
America was trying to use it in a negative way, but I guess they
yes,
come now and they see that it's not that way, and the people who are here are actually willing to help their countrymen.
yeah. I mean, some of these things are very technical issues. Uh, um, there are situations historically, some years ago, where the Castro government, and it was in the Cuban law, once the Cuban leave their country and work in other parts of the world, they must pay a portion of their salary to the Cuban government. That's the Cuban government it's a communist country. China also have a policy like that. Most communist countries have policies like that. Um, policy, but where I mean, so you contribute a significant portion of your salary to the government, and you are to and yeah and you are and there are rations that these countries have and so on. So uh yeah, and there were teachers many years ago who were working from Cuba, working in the Caribbean, various parts of the Caribbean, who had to send their salary back to Cuba. This happened in 2000, and this happened in the late 1990s. It happened in the 2000 when I worked in Jamaica at a at a government department where there were Cubans there, and they had to send their money to Cuba, or they were getting. What they're saying is now, has that changed? Maybe it has changed. However, I think it has adjusted. There's been a shift in terms of policy, but they're still required to send a certain amount. They're still required to send a certain amount of money to um to Cuba. There's still this requirement there, but there it's part of the culture. It's it's part of what they do. Say, for example, many Jamaicans and many immigrants who live in or from immigrant communities who live in the U.S. They know what Western Union is. They know what MoneyGram is. We utilize remittances is part of who we are. You part of what you do. You send money back to Jamaica. You send money back to Cuba. You spend money back to Puerto Rico, to Mexico, wherever. You send money back. That's part of your responsibility. Part of you get to come here. You have to send. The others are not there. That is part of the culture. That's part of what we do. That's part of what we do. You send money back because things are not as kosher in some places. And so if you get an opportunity, you want to give back. That's part of the culture. That's the bucolic society that has always been part of the African, that has been always been part of the Indian, this bucolic idea, the Eastern, okay, this communal kind of society, sharing what you have with others, and so on and so forth. That has been always part. But now we have created sophisticated terms. We have created sophisticated terms to make life hard for people. The fact of the matter is, Cuba is under an embargo. Uh, Cuba is suffering today because of because they've been cut off from the world politically, because they're in the West in a sense, because they're a communist country, one, and two, economically as well. They're an embargo, so it's hard to trade with them or to do business with them. If you do business with them, then you suffer the penalty. You'll be penalized by the US and so on and so forth. You suffer the same penalty. That has affected Cuba. Venezuela to an extent, but they're a little bit more developed and advanced, and they have oil and so on. So, but part of the thing is, so these people from these countries go to the post-industrial and they send money. The issue is that Cuba is still doing well. They're not supposed to be doing well. Cuba is still doing well. How are these countries able to survive? Because of the mechanism that allows them to stay afloat. So they are able to survive because there are people, there are Cubans in the US, there are Cubans in Jamaica and all over the world who are sending money or through remittances, or it's over the through law. But that's what's happening, and that is a problem for the status quo. That's a problem for the US, because by now Cuba should have collapsed. By now Cuba should have failed, but they have not failed. And so now there has to be a strategy to pull away. You get rid of USAID. You get rid of the next thing you know, they're going to apply more restrictions to remittance. I'm just waiting for it, the remittances. I'm just waiting for what they're going to do with remittances. Oh, come up with something to make it hard for people to send money back to some of these countries, to these black and brown countries, because black and brown countries are doing better than they ought to do, because black and brown countries are supposed to be fairly poor. And I'm telling you, that's what economists, the kind of economists we have in the kind of world we have today, says that inequality is okay. Poverty is okay. Because everybody can't be wealthy. Everybody can't have money. It's going to affect, then I mean, you won't have a status quo. You won't have an elite class. So on and so forth. And I said to somebody, unless you deal with the issue of competition, you will never deal with the issue of illegal immigration and crime and violence stemming from relative deprivation. Again, relative deprivation says a Marxist relativist theory that says where you have high levels of inequality and poverty, you have high levels of income inequality. And of course, sometimes destabilization is a good strategy. Destabilization is a good strategy. Crisis is a strategy. I won't talk about that in this class or this program or anything. I won't talk about that. But remember, in the 1970s, OPEC was a crisis that has helped to shape the Caribbean, because that was the reason why they had to go to, because they raised the price, the price of oil. The Caribbean don't have money to purchase that. They have to go borrow money. Because they have to go borrow money from the IMF, the World Bank, from the international regime, from the host who knew what they're. So you create crisis. Crisis is created in order to create a position. Or you understand what I'm trying to say here? A crisis. How crises help to shape a particular narrative and a plan, ferment a plan. Anyways, I don't want to belabor the point, but anyway, the Prime Minister was there. He was there. I'm going to talk about it later towards the end of the class, the last. But right now we're going to have the groups. Which it's now 5:20. And so, sorry, it's 4:20. We go up until 6. So we have about an hour and a half. So we are going to have the first group present this week. What group is going to present this week? What group will present this week? Chantel, are you there? Chantel? Chantel, are you there? What group is presenting this week? Is it group 2? Group 2 is supposed to present this week, yes?
No,
Are you
sir,
guys
you
ready?
said group 1 to 3. You had said group 1 to 3 last week.
Sorry about that, sir. I apologize. All right, so I thought we were supposed to have 3 group presenting this week and 3 next week.
All right. We'll have we'll
So
do as much as we can.
group 1, then to group 2, then group 3.
What we'll do is we'll have the group present. We won't take as much. We won't take if you have
So
burning
they can
questions.
all get 30 minutes to present, sir.
30 minutes. So each group
Okay,
have
yeah,
30
for
minutes.
each group.
After 30 minutes, I will cut you off. All right. So it's now 5:20. I
The
think
group
we
1
can.
can go ahead and start.
So
Sir, can
we
you
will.
let them share?
Yes, you have. I'm going
Okay
to
to
stop.
share.
Yeah, you have the. You can share.
Uh,
You can share your screen, please. Yes, please do so. All right.
The group 1 can go ahead and start sharing the screen to start presenting.
What group is presenting today?
Sir, group 1, 2, and 3 will be
Okay.
presenting today.
Good night, sir. Right now, group 1 cannot be presented
Fine,
because
fine. Group 2, are you
one
ready?
of our class members is not here.
The group 2
That's
can
fine.
so group 2 they want to go ahead. So group 2 can present first, and then after that we have the rest of groups.
Definitely. All right. So group 2, you have 30 minutes to present. You have the floor. Oh, by the way, introduce your names. And when you introduce your group, your names, the country you're going to be doing. Okay, so that I know what's going on. So what countries you're going to be doing, and please identify yourselves when you begin. All right, go ahead, group 2.
And even though there's just a small amount of Hindu individuals living in St. Lucia, their cultural and religious traditions are still practiced today, even though it is not as a widespread religion in St. Lucia.
Thanks. I realized that we were not recording. I had stopped the recording. Did you guys see that we weren't recording?
I'm sorry, I never realized, sir.
We were not. So I am. Wow, this is not good. I am so disappointed that we didn't get a lot of what you have said so far. But I think you spoke for 10 minutes. We lost 10 minutes of the recording. But this is Caribbean Thought. This is group 3. They're presenting on the island of St. Lucia. They're in the middle of the presentation already. They're looking at the religions in St. Lucia.
Yes, sir.
Right?
They have many more to go, sir. So I think that I can send the presentation to the class as well.
Yeah, so send the presentation to the class.
Sir, there was a present on cinema as well, sir.
Sorry?
They also going to present on Suriname as well.
Oh, they're also going to present
2 countries.
Suriname. All
yes,
right.
Yes, sir. 2
countries. Okay, that's good. But
I told you for right now, I was having trouble with...
But what have you said so far, though? You have said so far about St. Lucia that it has about 180,000 people living on the island. They speak
majority spoke English, but a very small percentage speak French Creole.
French Creole, yes. The country has, you said they talk about the country has a lot of volcanic activity
Before, and it's
before.
not been since 1799. They have not have any volcanic eruptions. It's been dormant since then.
Since the 1700s.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know that. That's good to know. Yes, but they still have some kind of minerals there. I went to St. Lucia before, been there, and for I spent a good amount of time there, about over 3 weeks, and they have these mineral baths where you could go and the water from the spring, their famous spring volcano spring water come from the volcano. It's very interesting. But yeah, so we know about that. Did you talk about what else have you spoken about so far? It's a small island, yes.
We spoke about like based on like different religion. We spoke about before you start you just started in religion. We spoke about that Christianity
Mhm.
is the most popular Christianity, and but Roman Catholicism, that's the most 61% of the population practices Roman Catholicism, which was brought by the French
Okay.
in colonial. So
Yes, yes,
that took
yes.
over.
Oh,
And
so Roman Catholic, so Roman Catholicism, which is a part of or a branch of Christianity, is the dominant
it's the
religion.
dominant, yes. And then
Religion.
the Protestantism, that's the next one with 25%. With
Okay.
that includes Seventh-day evangelists. We have Adventists, Baptists, Methodists as well. That's included, and there are other influences like Rastafarianism, Islam, and Hindu. Very
Okay.
small, but they are still practiced and still acknowledged in Saint Lucia. Because
Thank you.
which I'm about to speak about now about
Yes.
how certain about I'm going to skip. I was talking about the religions, like
Yeah.
about because the the Afro Caribbeans, they're the one that's mostly practices Rastafarianism in Saint Lucia, and they believe in keeping that tradition alive because of they're the one that knows that has that connection to Africa, or Mother Africa as they call it. So they practice a lot of spiritual traditions like obia and some which they call some form of magic, and they feel like it brings them closer to their ancestors. And so the small, even though it's small, the Afro Caribbeans, they're the one that mostly deal with the African spiritual traditions in Saint Lucia.
Which is used along with Christian beliefs as well. Individuals
Yes.
practice these traditions feel like it
Yes,
brings you
sir.
closer to the
And
ancestors.
in St. Lucia, sir, as I was about to go to the next one, we can see like they take just like in every country. In Jamaica, you have their own setup, the setup culture before the funeral. They have similar things in St. Lucia, like with the death and the afterlife, because the St. Lucians who are Christian they believe in this Christian based theory of the afterlife, this heaven and hell, and then the cultural practices of serving rum and strong coffee as the wake, as well as singing traditional hymn and songs. This is before the funeral, and this known as All Saints Day. All Saints Day in Saint Lucia is where they like where on every year where they celebrate when someone, their loved one or friend or family has passed away. Every year on this day, they celebrate
Okay. Okay.
the person that has passed on, which is called All Saints Day, where candles, flowers, and wreaths are placed on gravesites around the
And
country.
that's a Christian tradition, in fact, or a Roman Catholic tradition. Yes.
Yes, yes,
And
sir.
I understand. And then, by the way, it's I know I see you're struggling to say Catholicism or
Yes, sir. That word
that
get me every time. Catholicism.
Catholicism,
Yes,
Catholicism. But it's
sir.
fine. It's fine because
Yes.
you did not struggle to say the Afro-Caribbean word like Rastafarianism and Rastafarians. So that means it goes to show that we are truly African people. Because the European words, which is Catholicism, it's not as easy. But Rasta and Africa, we just reel off our tongue easily.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't correct people who say catalysm. I don't. I've heard it before. I don't correct. I don't really correct people who don't pronounce English like the Europeans do. Okay, because our DNA and our heritage predispose us to speak a certain way. So if you say catalysm, I know exactly what you're talking about. Not, it doesn't phase me. Okay,
Yes, sir.
but
But All Saints Day again, sir, it's celebrated on November 1st. I left that out. On November 1st every year. That's when
okay,
it's celebrated. And the final thing when it comes to religion in St. Lucia is that they have a freedom of religion. The
okay.
government does encourages the freedom of choice when it comes to individuals practicing their religious beliefs. Now, even though majority of the religion of the holidays and ceremony are Christian based, the government they recognize that it is important when it comes to religious beliefs and practice, even though majority of the ceremonies are Christian based, the government knows that it is important to recognize other important religious days on the Caribbean on the calendar for just the peace and harmony of the country.
Is it illegal there? Is obia illegal? The practice of obia illegal there?
I in my research, I never saw any of that, sir, and I read a lot. It told me that that it was practiced, but it never said anything about it being illegal or illegal.
Okay.
I never saw it, but it
All
just
right.
it recognizes is that certain persons do practices
Let me ask you a
practice it as a
question.
form.
Let me
Yes,
ask you a
sir.
question. In Jamaica, do we practice is the free is do they practice the freedom of religion in Jamaica?
Yes, sir. I think so.
So like Saint Lucia, like Saint Lucia, they in like Saint Lucia, Jamaica is also free to practice. They have freedom of religion in Jamaica. In Jamaica, like Saint Lucia, would you say that?
Um, I think they try to because even like they say like they know that there are some persons and because like I said there's a mix of Muslim Islam Hindus, and they try to make sure everybody is recognized based on their religious calendar. But I don't think we do that here in Jamaica, because they don't really hear people talk about like Ramadan, and they do that in St. Lucia, so
You know,
they
this is
acknowledge like Ramadan and so
I'm happy
forth.
that this is interesting. This is now I'm asking this question about I'm we talk about critical thinking. Critical thinking. You say in your presentation that it's the religion, it's the freedom of religion is in Saint Lucia they promote the freedom of religion. You can practice whatever religion or beliefs you have, so long as it doesn't, uh, I guess, interfere with other people. But then I asked, okay, so what about Obia, like African traditions? And you say, well, I believe so. And then I said, okay, what about Jamaica? Yes, we're free to practice any religion in Jamaica. We're free to practice any religion in Jamaica, um, like St. Lucia. But no, it's not true though. It's not true. It's not true because in Jamaica, Obia is illegal. Obia
Yes,
was
sir.
de Obia was decriminalized in Anguilla in 1980. Barbados in 1998, Trinidad and Tobago in 2000, and St. Lucia in 2004. All these islands, except the only one of the only Caribbean islands where Obia was not decriminalized, or is yet that was not decriminalized, but is still illegal on their books. Jamaica, one of the few Caribbean islands. So yes, so Jamaica was one of the only one of the only Caribbean islands who still have the practice of obia as illegal.
Oh,
As being illegal. Yeah. Anyway,
I think they also acknowledge, sir. I remember they said that they know they have persons on the island who does not practice religion at all. Like, some people that are atheist or agnostic, and they also acknowledge that as well too. So they when they do censuses and so forth, they are included in all of that as well.
Okay, that's good.
But when you put it like that, sir, I don't think we are as much as we say we practice freedom, not as much as in comparison to St. Lucia, because they actually have on their calendar, like Ramadan, they will include like Hindu holidays and Islam holidays or things in the Rastafarian culture and tradition that is celebrated on certain day. But again, it's majority Christian, but they still do make time to recognize those as well.
Yes. All right, let's move right along to the
All
next
right, my
thing.
next group member will go ahead and present.
Thank you so much, Janine. That was very refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Janelle. Good evening, everyone. Demographics. Am I being heard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's
Good
Nikisha.
evening, everyone.
Nikisha is. I'm gonna.
Yes.
Hold.
You're
Okay,
not
hold on.
seeing me, sir?
Who is speaking? Is it Nikisha?
Nikisha will continue, sir. Yes, sir.
So who is next? Is it Nikisha or who is supposed to be going next?
It's
Me,
Nikisha,
sir.
sir.
Okay, you are upside down. We're seeing you
I am
inverted.
still upside down.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There. Oh my God, my eyes were hurting me. Beautiful. Go, go ahead.
All right, so I'll be presenting on the demographics of St. Lucia. So St. Lucia is a stunning island nation. It is located in the West Indies, specifically the Eastern Caribbean, and it's part
Wait,
of the
hold on, hold
Warrior
on, hold
Island
on.
within
Wait,
the
did you
Lesser
say?
Antilles.
Did you say? Hold on. You said that it is a stunning island.
Yes, sir, it's beautiful.
Oh, oh, sorry. You didn't say sunny. You said stunning.
Stunning.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. Oh, thank you for that adjective. I love it.
Okay, so it's within the Lesser Antilles, a group known for their breathtaking landscape and rich biodiversity. So the country is framed for its remarkable nature, natural beauty, particularly Python, I don't know if I get the correct pronunciation, the twin volcano spheres that have been designated by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites, as well as its lush rainforest. So St. Lucia gained independence from the British colonial rule on February 22, 1979. But as like Jamaica, they're still under British colony. They have a governor general like Jamaica. So making a significant milestone in history and beginning of its journey up to a sovereign nation. So this independence allow the development of unique cultural identity influenced by African, French, and British heritage. So today, St. Lucia is celebrated for its vibrant festivals, warm hospitality, and flourishing tourism industry, drawing visitors from all over the globe to its idyllic beaches and charming towns. So the population, as stated by Janelle, is approximately 180,000 persons, and the ethnicity, most of the population is from African descent, which is 85.3% African descent, and 10% African European descent, and 2.2% East Indian, and 0.6% whites. So the median age for St. Lucian is 34.2, and about 19.24% of this population is under 14 years old, and 13.1% is 65 years and older. So urban versus rural, the population is evenly split because it's not a big island between the urban and the rural areas. So the language is official language English, but they have their Creole, which is French, and religion Christianity. So some great persons in St. Lucia. First is Julian Alfred. She won the gold medal in the 100-meter last Olympic. Then you have Sir Arthur Lewis. Sir Arthur Lewis, he was an economist who won the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science in 1979 for his work on economic development. And we have Derek Walcott, and he's also another Nobel Prize winner for literature. And he, from his standpoint, he went to college at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, and his work draw inspiration from his Caribbean natural beauty fusion stem from his colonial theme. So he is well studied. And another person is Dame Pearlette Louise. She is their Governor General, and since 1997, she also studied at the University of the West Indies and University of Laval for her PhD. Then we have the famous cricketer Darren Sammy. He is the first international cricketer from St. Lucia and the first who appointed as West Indies captain. So another person is Sir George Melvin, Captain. So Mr. Captain was the first, the fifth, and the eighth Prime Minister of St. Lucia. So he has served 3 terms. And so 1982 to 1996, then 2006 until September 2007. So he governed St. Lucia under the British rule from 1964 to 1979 and became the country's first leader following its independence in February 1979. So St. Lucia have persons who have made their imprints, just as Jamaica. They have athletes, they have professors, because Derek Walcott, he had made significant contribution to literature in the Caribbean, and also Sir Arthur Lewis. He was a professor at various university of economics. So we have great persons coming from St. Lucia, and he was also a vice chancellor of the University of the West Indies from 1959 to 1962. And he also played a significant role in the development of the Caribbean Development Bank. So St. Lucia has played his part in issue with these people. Now hand over to my next classmate, presenter, group member.
Okay, thank you, Nikisha. All right, sir. So, sir, I'm going to give a brief history when it comes to the country of Saint Lucia. All right. Now we're going to look at the indigenous people and the early settlement. All right. Now the indigenous groups were the Siboney, and they were there from pre 2000 BCE, and were the earliest known settlers, and they were the hunters and the gatherers, right? So as far back, those were the first, earliest known persons to have settled upon the island of St. Lucia, right? And then after that, came the Arawaks. And we know about the Arawaks here in our Caribbean history in high school, if any of us did Caribbean history. Now the Arawaks migrated from South Africa to St. Lucia in the 200s to 800 CE. Now they brought with them agriculture, and they made pottery, and they were a very peaceful group of settlers. And they were there for a while until the Caribs showed up. Now from the 800 CE to the 17th centuries, the fierce warriors known as the Caribs settled upon St. Lucia, and they displaced the Arawaks and dominated the entire island, right? Now, when it comes to European colonization, Jean de la Cosa, who was a Spanish explorer. He was among the first Europeans explorer to ever see St. Lucia. Even when a plague bloom, oli, olipe, blossom, sorry to butcher that name, was said to be the first English settler, but failed to take control of the island due to resistance from the Caribs. Now, as you remember, we spoke about the Caribs before. They were very fierce, so they were very fiery, very brave warriors, right? And they didn't want anyone to come and take. They had pushed out everybody that had came and settled before them, and they wanted to take full control of the island and give nobody else a chance. So even when the first couple Spanish explorers came and tried to settle, they fought back and took control, right? Now, by the 16th century, about 1639, another attempt was made by English settlers to try to come and capture settle and capture the land, but was failed again by an attack by it was failed again because they were attacked, and that attack was won by the Caribs again. Now, we're going to go into some important dates in the battle between the French and the Britain, right? So we're looking at in the 16th century, it was in 1660, the French, led by Governor of Martinique, formally settled St. Lucia. In 1660, a treaty was signed with the Caribs, granting the French control.
Can I pause you just for a second? Very interesting, but for the sake of time, and the students will get this, very important dates, but for this, just say it's important dates in the battle, but it's not really important for us. For this class, we don't want to see the gory details of how the French took control, of how the Europeans dominated St. Lucia and how they switched hands between the French, the Spanish, and the English. But just say, no, go back to where you were first. You can just say, so between 1650 and 1814, there were fierce battle between the European nations, particularly French and Britain, and to some extent to French and Britain. So you could just say reference that and then move to the next thing. But yeah, we know that that's why they speak a little bit of French Creole and they speak English today, because of what had happened between 1650 and 1803. And notice 1803 now. 1803 is significant because between 1778 and 1803, we know what was going on in Haiti at the time. Yes? The Haitian Revolution leading to their independence. Right? So there were several conflicts. So St. Lucia was having Napoleon Handsworth, a lot was going on because you had the French Revolution, you have the Haitian Revolution, you have quite a few things happening. I can see the French losing to the British with all that's going on internally within their colonies. But it seems as if the British was better able to control their colonies. Anyway, continue. You can continue now.
Oh, okay, sir. All right. So I was just looking at just like the British rule, what happened in St. Lucia under the British rule, because I thought that's what you meant by the history. Because I know this is Caribbean talk, and I know you want us to dig deep and worse talk about when it comes to like colonization and coming from that to where they are now. That's why I wanted to touch on that and talk about like St. Lucia then to St. Lucia today. So under British rule, from 1834, slavery was abolished in St. Lucia, but the former enslaved population, they faced harsh conditions. And the 20th century, St. Lucia developed economically and socially under the British rule, but movements for self-governance grew. And on February 22nd, 1979, that's when St. Lucia achieved full independence from Britain, with Sir John Compton becoming the first Prime Minister, which Nikisha spoke about before. And then we have now, so in St. Lucia today, St. Lucia celebrates their Independence Day on February 22nd every year. And it is really great to see St. Lucia where it's coming from. It's coming from an indigenous settlement, coming from what they had to fight to get their independence to the thriving country that they are today. Now, since St. Lucia gained independence, they have sustained a very stable democracy and has developed its economy to have a booming tourism industry, amazing agriculture, and an increase in foreign investment. So the final one for this slide, sir, is current positions. Diana will go ahead and present.
Thank you so much, Nikisha.
Current positions. So according to the Caribbean History Archives, St. Lucia's history is marked by European colonization, primarily by the French and the British, and this is because of how they are strategically located in the Caribbean. Originally inhabited by the Arawak and Carib people, as mentioned earlier, the island was claimed by the French in 1605, but control shifted back and forth between British and French until British secured the island in 1814. St. Lucia became a British colony in 1939, and they gained independence on the 22nd of February, 1979. The country's economy was centered around sugar production, like Jamaica, relying on enslaved Africans until slavery was abolished in 1834. So today, tourism is the island's primary economic sector, following a change from agriculture.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
When did St. Lucia become a British colony? Was it in 1939 or was it in 1814?
Sir, repeat the question, sir.
When did St. Lucia become a British colony? Was it in 1814 or 18? Was it in?
Yes, sir. It was in 1814, sir. That was after the French. After the French left and Britain after the French. Well, Britain won against the French. That's when the British Crown colony St. Lucia came under the British Crown colony, sir, in 1814.
That's correct, Janelle, after France.
Okay.
Yes, sir?
Go ahead.
All right, so it became a British colony in 1814. All right, following the Treaty of Paris.
Yes. Which was where Britain defeated the French, sir.
Oh, but that means you have to update your presentation.
Janelle, go back to the previous slide, please.
Yeah, it's showing it's showing that they became St. Lucia became a British colony in 1939.
Where is that, sir?
The third.
See there, British secured secured in 1814. That's the second paragraph right there.
Right, and then it went down to say 1939. So that's why I was a bit confused. Is it 1939 or is it 1814?
1814, sir.
Okay. So what's going on?
1814.
Oh, so what's going on with this St. Lucia became a British colony in 1930? What's going on with that?
Sir, that's a typo error because it's 1814 become a crown.
Oh, I just wanted to. Okay, fine. That's okay. Cool. All right. I just wanted to be certain so that the students also know. because they're also reading. So I just wanted to.
Yeah,
And
yes, sir. Sorry everyone. It's a typo. It's 1814 that Saint Lucia became a British crown colony.
okay, all right, no problem. I can't carry on. Carry on. Sorry.
Yes, Nikisha mentioned the notable figures before, sir, which was Sir Arthur and Derek Walcott. That's what who she was speaking about. So we're going to move on to our other country.
Thank you. Very good. Any question? Any quick question, real quick? Anybody have any question? No question? Okay. Who is next? Oh, country. Suriname.
Yes, sir. One moment, sir.
Anyway, while I wait on you guys, did you guys notice the by the presentation that you guys, I noticed you had about St. Lucia when I noticed an image where when the Europeans met, visited St. Lucia first, um, there was an image of some Europeans or people looking like Europeans, and then there were some people looking like Africans. Yet you weren't talking about Africans, you were talking about the Caribs. So I wanted to find out the image that you guys showed earlier where the Europeans meet the people, the Caribs in St. Lucia. Um, I don't know, where did you guys get that image? Was it from the material that you guys got from? Was it where did you guys get that image? It's quite interesting.
No, sir. You know what I talked about? The exact thing that I was looking for. That's what I typed in, and that's the image that came up surprisingly.
Okay, okay, for the Caribs and stuff. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Well, you notice how they look? How the Caribs look? Yes. The Caribs were the Africans that came here, but because the Africans were very tracting and big and powerful. You notice that? But you
Yeah,
notice how the
yes,
Indians,
sir. They
they
were they
said
were
that
they were a very
these
dominant force.
the Arawaks came from South America. These Indians came from South America. But when the Europeans met them, they looked like they were from Africa. Did you notice that? The image that you provided. But anyways, that's something that you want to go into the archives and look at the uh the artifact with the bones and the sculpting and the people who the Europeans found here. Anyways, continue.
Okay,
You will
sir.
find some more.
Sir,
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
moment, sir. I'm just having some issues with this file here. One moment, sir.
I don't know if we're gonna have time to go to the next group. Hope I don't think we will. Um, because the class we're supposed to finish at 6. We have less than 45 minutes left in the class. And you guys gonna do Suriname unless is the other group here? Unless in fact, let me pause. You guys, don't okay, stop. Don't present Suriname. Is another group here? Is group 1 or 2 here?
Group one here, sir.
I want group 1 to present. What do you have to present on?
Haiti and Dominican Republic.
Great. Okay, fine. Can you present on Haiti today?
Yes.
Great. All right. So, because what I want to do is I want to ensure that all groups get to present. And then when you guys have presented, then we can go back and you can present your second country. So that in case if I take you guys, I want everybody to get equal time. So I'm gonna have you guys stop and have group one present on Haiti. Okay? And then next week we will pick up and we will have you when the other group will have you when the other groups are finished, we'll have you pick up from there. All right. So Idris, your group have the floor. All right. Very good presentation. Guys. In fact, we've been on here for a while, so I'm gonna ask you. I also want to give you guys a 5 minutes break. I'm giving you a 5 minutes break. We come back at 6:25, and then we'll have Idris group. Give you guys 5 minutes to get yourself
Sir,
together. Natalie, go ahead.
sir, no, it's Janine, sir. Natalie, I've seen I get asked a question in the chat. I did mention, I think I mentioned it, I'm not sure if you heard. But the currency that they used in St. Lucia is called the Eastern Caribbean dollar, XCD.
Yes. They use Eastern.
That's what they have their own currency. That's what they use.
Yeah, they a number of Caribbean islands have share their currency. They don't have St. Lucia don't have their own currency. Okay, they share currency with a group of other islands. And the fact that I believe that the entire all the
Eastern Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean.
yes,
Yes.
currency. When I have been in the Eastern Caribbean before several times, so I had to exchange money and so on. I know exactly what happened and the money they use there. I think in the Eastern Caribbean at one time the dollar was the Eastern Caribbean dollar was stronger than the U.S. Sorry, stronger than the Jamaican dollar. And one of the reasons why, when they were discussing the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, CSME, Caribbean Single Market and Economy, Jamaica, I don't think we really had a Caribbean Single Market. There was conversations about the Caribbean Single Market in the 90s. There was a lot of conversation, but it never took off. It never took off because, as I said to you, what happened is that each of the Caribbean islands could not agree on as to where the central bank is going to be. Okay, they could not agree as to, and then again, they can't agree as to, and then again, if Jamaica were to come in, is it going to affect the strength of the Eastern Caribbean dollars? Those were some of the fears, those were some of the discussions.